Hurt the union, lose the cash? The Obama administration reportedly threatening to withhold nearly $7 billion in stimulus money from the Golden State of California. The reason? The state cutting wages for some union workers. Our next guest says that is just one more example of the White House giving in to big labor. Saul Anuzis is with American Solutions. I hope I got your name right, Saul. Thank you very much for joining us on Your World. What exactly is going on in California? I'm trying to follow the story, and all I hear is government unions, and I know that's probably not a good combo, but what am I missing?
Well, the state of California is obviously our largest state and in a very large budget crunch. They're looking at about a $17 billion shortfall by July. Under very tough negotiations in a bipartisan way, the legislature and the governor agreed to a series of reforms and budget cuts in order to try to stave away bankruptcy and to limit the amount of federal assistance that California would have. The SEIU in particular, one of the big unions involved that invested some $30 million in Obama's campaign, along with some $400 million that other unions did, came back and put pressure on the Obama administration to reverse negotiations, bipartisan negotiations, state law, in order to get a payback and make sure that their unions are paid before the state of California.
Basically, we don't like the outcome. We helped you get elected. Come help us now.
Absolutely. It's payback time for the unions and blackmail for the state of California.
And it's taxpayers, especially the ones who are not union.
Absolutely. You and I are paying the bills once again.
Well, you know, my parents left California in 1985, where I grew up, in part because the state was going in a bad fiscal direction. What's going to be the outcome here?
Well, I'm not sure what the outcome will ultimately be, but this is a very tough situation across the country. I'm sitting here in Michigan with similar situations, not as large.
Oh, boy.
But again, we're going to have all kinds of structural reforms and all kinds of budget cuts that will take place across the country. And if the Obama administration backs up unions instead of dealing with the rule of law, dealing with bankruptcy rules, I mean, take a look at what they did with the big three. I mean, instead of dealing with bondholders, who should be in the first position, they gave preferability to the unions. And unions are getting anywhere from 40% of General Motors to 55% of Chrysler, and bondholders are getting stuck holding the bill.
Yeah, but if you again, you talked about it at the top. If you give the support, nothing is free.
Look, government cannot give anything to anybody before it takes something away from someone else. And this is the function of what's happening. And what Barack Obama's administration is doing today is favoring those who politically help them get elected. It is very dangerous. It's bad for America. It's going to be horrible for the state of California. And unfortunately, it's going to be my children and grandchildren that will end up paying the bills.
You know, Saul, on my blog on foxbusiness.com, I linked to a National Bureau of Economic Research study over the weekend, nonpartisan group, that showed that when a company gets unionized, its value automatically falls in the capital markets. That's on my website. You wonder if the same is true for states, if you could put states on a public market.
Well, I think only in the sense that you have to realize that today only about 12% of the workforce is unionized. Only 8% of the private sector is unionized. But they're the ones who are usually the most transitant with respects to negotiating a deal.
Saul, we got to leave it there. We do appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me.